In Greek mythology, beyond the grandeur of Olympus, there is a god whose realm is the wild, a place of enchantment, freedom, and mystery. This is the world of Pan, the goat-legged god of nature, music, and raw passion. In the wilderness of Arcadia, Pan roams among his closest companions, the Nymphs. These elusive and graceful beings embody the beauty of the wilderness, and their companionship, and at times, their evasion, defines Pan's story. The origins of Pan, like his character, are layered and wild. Some myths say he was the son of Hermes and the nymph Dryope, who, startled by his unusual appearance, abandoned him. Hermes, however, took Pan to Olympus, where the gods laughed in amazement at the strange yet joyful creature. Other tales link Pan to gods like Zeus, Apollo, or even the primal deities Gaia and Uranus. And although several origin stories exist, the most famous is that of Hermes and Dryope, upon which much of Pan's myth is built. As for his name, it holds mystery too. One theory claims it comes from the Greek painu, Pan, meaning all, as he delighted all. Another points to an older Indo-European root, possibly linking Pan to the Vedic god Pushun, a protector of cattle. His name also lives on in words like panic, inspired by the terrifying scream he could unleash, and pansexuality, fitting for a god whose passions knew no bounds. Pan's story and his love for the nymphs invite us into a world where wildness is both revered and feared, where Pan and the nymphs share dances in moonlit groves, laughter in hidden valleys, and a spirit that is untamed. Pan's life is one of constant pursuit, not only of the nymphs but of his own place in the wild. Among his many pursuits, one tale stands out: Pan's encounter with Syrinx, a beautiful naiad of Arcadia. Her grace captivated him entirely, but his goat-like appearance frightened her. When he approached her, she fled through the forest with Pan following, his heart full of longing. As she reached the river's edge, Syrinx called upon the river spirits to save her, and just as Pan stretched out his hand, she transformed into tall reeds. Heartbroken but inspired, Pan sat beside the reeds, and as he sighed, either his breath or the wind produced a soft, haunting melody through them. Struck by this accidental sound, Pan gathered the reeds and bound them together, crafting the instrument now known as the Pan flute. Though he was not the god of music, Apollo holds that title. The Pan flute became his signature, a voice for his sorrow, passion, and wildness. This encounter with Syrinx, one of the nymphs he adored, solidified Pan's identity as a god who does not seek power or wealth, but rather freedom, beauty, and music. The nymphs, both his companions and his elusive loves, shaped his journey and his character as a symbol of untamed nature. Pan's relationship with the nymphs continues to shape his understanding of himself. Though he longs for their companionship, he often finds himself rejected. This theme of yearning and loss is perhaps best captured in his encounters with two nymphs, Pitys and Echo. Pan adored Pitys, but to avoid his advances, she transformed into a pine tree, forever out of his reach. In another story, Pan pursued Echo, a nymph with a haunting voice. Yet, she too avoided him, eventually becoming only an echoing voice heard through the woods. These stories are reminders of the fleeting beauty he can never fully possess. Over time, Pan embraces his role as a god of untamed passion, a protector of shepherds, flocks, and the wild spaces of Arcadia. Roaming the forests, he brings both joy and terror to those who encounter him. His Pan flute becomes his voice, calling out to all who dwell in the shadows of the wilderness, a melody that is as wild and unpredictable as nature itself. As Pan grew into his wild identity, he became a figure of both reverence and misunderstanding. Though beloved by those in Arcadia, Pan's untamed nature and his passions made him a complex and sometimes fearsome figure. This ambiguity would grow with time, especially as his image shifted with the spread of Christianity, which cast his goat-like horns and free spirit in a darker light. Seen as rebellious and chaotic, Pan's image was eventually associated with the figure of Satan, and he became a symbol of the forbidden and the profane. But even as perception shifted, Pan's love for music remained. In fact, he once dared to challenge the god of music himself, Apollo. In this famous contest, Pan's earthy tunes on his flute pleased his loyal follower, King Midas, and Pan was proud of his rustic melody. But when Apollo played his lyre, Molus, the mountain god who served as judge, declared Apollo the winner. Midas alone dissented, favoring Pan's wild music over Apollo's refined melody. Angered by Midas's choice, Apollo transformed his ears into those of a donkey, marking his unworthy judgment. Though Pan's music could not match Apollo's elegance, it carried the unpolished beauty of the wilderness, a reminder that there are forms of beauty that exist outside the ordered realms of Olympus. His music, like Pan himself, was free, unpredictable, and enduring. One of Pan's most celebrated legends is his role in the Battle of Marathon. When the Persians threatened the land, Pan came to aid the Greeks, joining them on the battlefield and filling the air with his terrifying cries of Pan, Pan, Pan. His voice echoed across the hills, striking the Persians with an overwhelming fear. A panic, which gave the Greeks a strategic advantage and led to their victory. Some legends say that Pan himself was there, inspiring the Greeks and demoralizing the enemy. In gratitude, the Athenians dedicated shrines and sacred caves to him, especially near the Acropolis, where they carved out spaces to honor him for his divine assistance. A statue was erected, commemorating the god who had saved them. No longer confined to the mountains, Pan's worship spread widely across Greece, and he became revered as a protector. His birthplace, Mount Lycaon in Arcadia, housed one of the grandest temples dedicated to him, alongside one for the goddess of the moon, Selene. Here, under the light of the full moon, Pan and the nymphs were honored with song and dance, a celebration of the wild spirit he embodied. This triumph at Marathon marked Pan's transformation from a local deity to a widely celebrated figure whose influence spread far beyond Arcadia. His name carried power, remembered in both forested groves and city shrines, a protector and a god of the wild. As time passed, the ancient world began to change, and with the rise of Christianity, Pan's place among the gods began to fade. During this shift, a pseudo-tale of Pan's supposed death emerged, recounted by Plutarch. The story goes that during the reign of Tiberius, a sailor named Themis, traveling near the island of Paxi, heard a mysterious voice calling out to him, saying, "Themis, are you there? When you reach Prolodes, proclaim that the great god Pan is dead." Themis did as he was instructed, announcing Pan's death when he reached shore. The message was met with groans and mourning. This story, many believe, symbolized the end of the old world and the beginning of a new era. Christian writers like G.K. Chesterton even claimed that Pan died because Christ was born, suggesting that Pan's passing marked the vanishing of the ancient gods as Christianity rose. The cry, "The great Pan is dead," would go on to capture the imaginations of poets, such as John Milton and Elizabeth Barrett Browning, who used it to symbolize the end of myth and the dawn of theology. Some scholars have speculated that the sailors may have misunderstood the cries of Tama's worshippers, who they may have thought were saying, "Themis, the great Pan is dead." But whether real or symbolic, the tale of Pan's death endures, representing the end of an age. However, when the traveler Pausanias journeyed through Greece a century later, he found Pan's shrines and sacred caves still alive with reverence and worship. Today, Pan's spirit lives on as a reminder of the beauty, mystery, and freedom of the untamed world. His presence echoes in every untouched grove, every haunting melody, and every moonlit dance. The essence of Pan is intertwined with modern language, as the word panic derives from his name, capturing the primal fear and wildness he embodied. Additionally, the term pansexuality speaks to an expansive love that transcends boundaries, reflecting the inclusive and multifaceted nature of desire that Pan represents. Indeed, Pan symbolizes the love of wilderness, the untamed spirit that calls us to embrace the natural world in all its chaotic beauty. Perhaps Pan and the nymphs still roam the wild places, reminding us that there are things in nature and in ourselves that cannot be contained. In every rustle of leaves and in every whisper of the wind, we are beckoned to remember the ancient call of the wild and the enduring legacy of the great god Pan.